Hello, dear councils. We are Ian Li and Zihao Wang presenting you the population modeling for you today. So here's our introduction. First of all, we'll talk about the factors which can affect the population for increment or decrement. And secondly, we're going to talk about the model analysis, including the constraints and the population forecasted. And at the end, we're going to talk about the connection between calculus and the real world context. So
And here is a factors like we compare two different towns. So in Suzhou, I discussed the education part. So it's about improved educational quality where shifted the population increase. And for the another factor is employment competitiveness in most companies in Suzhou. So this leading to a decrease because people choose to leave Suzhou because the high pressure of the work.
So my hometown is Beijing. So I chose Beijing to model my population. The first factor I want to talk about is the education quality. So Beijing has got the most two famous universities in Beijing, namely Tsinghua and Peking University. So these are the two, like I would say the greatest university in China. So this maybe lead to a great increase in the population, and it should be a linear growth. And the second factor, which is occupation opportunities, this is because Beijing mainly occupies, I think based on research, the second most companies, and whether it is limited or unlimited companies in the market. So this means a lot of occupations are emptied for the undergraduates or the graduates, and this could lead to exponential growth in population. The last factor I consider is the environmental pollution. So Beijing has a dramatic problem of air quality, which means that they have a high concentration of PM 2.5, and this may lead to a sign change in the function because um, the air quality is the worst when it's winter. So it's like a clinical cycle of the change of the population.
And I would identify the variables of the population model in my hometown Suzhou. So I put the independent variable is the time, the x-axis is in years, and for the dependent variable is population of Suzhou in millions for the y-axis. And the model function is pt equals to p initial times e to the power of rt, and pt is like the population at any time like t, the leading the power, and the p0 is the initial population, and the r is a percentage of population change per year, and this r is like the net change of the education quality and the job competitiveness. So I just minus the education quality factor minus the job competitiveness factor. So this leading to a final net percentage of population change per year, and t is the number of years. So that's the variables for Suzhou model. And here I put the model into a curve graph. It's an exponential model. So like from the 2000 and 2022, the population is like the data online is well fitted with the population model. So like you can see the increase very nicely, and it's like a well fitted model with the online data.
So for Beijing, the independent variable is also the time in years between 2002 to 2022. And then the dependent variable is Beijing's population Y in millions. And my model will be the function that three functions are added together, just that, as I mentioned previously. So the first factor, which I represented in F1, is equals to AX plus B, which is the like the general function of linear function. And then the second factor I represented in F2 of X, which is equals to c times d to the power of x. And the last one, it equals to h times sine of kx plus m, and a, b, c, d, h, k, and m are all constant parameters of y, which means that we have to find out the exact value of these parameters to make the exact model for Beijing's population. So here's my model for Beijing's population, and you can see that I add three functions together, so it kind of fits the dots very nicely. And the R square is approximately 0.99, which means that 99% of my variables are fitted with my model. So it's generally a very good model.
And here we can using that model to calculate the next 5 year, 10 year, 20 years, and the 100 years. We can calculate the predictions. So like in Suzhou, the model for 2025 is like the well-fitted data, but for the last three, the increase dramatically. So like there's some uncontrolled variable inside there. So like the prediction of that, the prediction I made like from the model, the function is not really well compared with the Beijing model.
And so on the right-hand side, you can see some numbers that I forecasted for Beijing's population in the future, which respectively are 2025, 2030, 2050, and 2100. And you can see that Beijing's population is overall on a increasing trend. And here are some constraints of Beijing's population. Well, first of all, government's regulation of population control is neglected, meaning that some regulations regarding the moving and move out of immigrants are ignored in this model. So this model will only be effective when the regulations are neglected. And the second point is that as we all know, that pandemic has caused many death cases in Beijing. So these amounts of death cases can lead to a huge impact on the population. And this factor is also ignored. And the last factor I ignored is that the death cases led by natural disasters like earthquakes and floods are also ignored, meaning that the model is constrained to forecast the population include the disasters.
And here are the constraints of Suzhou population model. I put the data of the prediction for the 2025, 2030, 2050, and 2100. And you can see a dramatically jump for the long term from the 2050 to 2100. And like forecasting population is greatly influenced by a variety of social, economic, and environmental factors. And like they are hence to because of some certain uncertainties, like the accuracy of our projection will, however, increase as we improve our models over time, like taking various circumstances into account, like as meters for education quality and job competitiveness. Change, we will keep an eye on the time and updated the model as necessary. And for the additionally, we the constraints like contain many uncontrolled vectors. So here are the examples for the natural disaster or illness, such as the COVID-19. This may like lead into this is uncontrolled factors may change the population dramatically. So we can directly see the prediction is not so well because the parameters may calculate by some uncontrolled mistakes. So we cannot predict the future population very well. And here are the connections between the calculus and the real world. Like the calculus aim to analysis and find the solution of the mathematical equations in order to develop the population dynamic for case. And it lets us to comprehend how factors such as birth rate, death rate, the immigration and emigration, some resources availability, and environmental factors influence the population growth or decline. And also the calculus may enable the development of more complicated models that take into account the age structure, population distribution, intersections between species in ecosystem. So by understanding how population develop and interact with their environmental over time, these models like exist help the ecologist, demographer, policymaker in making some educated decisions like about resources allocation, urban planning, or conservation efforts and public health initiatives. So like these are the connections between the math calculus and the real world.
In conclusion, our model basically includes some factors, including education levels, environmental problems, and then occupation opportunities, and etc. Well, in the end, by comparison the disadvantages and the advantages of both models, we concluded that maybe Beijing's model is better because Beijing's model considered more factors, first of all, and secondly, it considered more constraints, including the not only the death cases led by the pandemic, specifically COVID-19, but also some natural disasters that could bring even more death cases to the population. And also there are some unforeseen uncertainties in the future. So probably we're gonna choose Beijing's population model for the government to make some decisions and policy recommendations.
That's all for today.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.